Welcome everyone. I thought fit that I would wear my smoke jacket tonight because tonight we're going to a very elegant estate. As we did with Dragonwyck, I wore this to Dragonwyck. Tonight we are going to the Blanche estate because tonight's review is Blanche Fury, which came out in 1948. And it stars Stewart Granger, Valerie Hobson, and Michael Gough. Valerie Hobson, she was in Great Expectations, which was actually her film prior to this. It came out a couple years before this film, so she kept that Victorian era vibe going for her and came into Blanche Fury. And Stewart Granger, I personally recognize him from King Solomon's Mines, and I believe that's what most people recognize him from being from. Michael Gough, he is popular for playing Batman's butler in several of the Batman films. He played Alfred. And so with Blanche Fury, it's really classified as a British, because it was made in Britain, a British Victorian era period costume drama. But the keywords, it's Victorian era. So if you really like movies like Wuthering Heights or Jane Eyre, this movie's perfect for you. And I also believe that Blanche Fury truly captured that Victorian era feeling with the settings and just the open fields with the horses running. Beautiful settings. Right away, Blanche Fury completely reminded me of Wuthering Heights. And the reason for that is because Heathcliff. So when you search Heathcliff, I was curious just because I searched Heathcliff on Google, and right away there's actually like a little short definition for him. And it says, the archetype of the tortured romantic hero whose all-consuming passions destroy both him and those around him. That perfectly describes Stewart Granger's character in this film, because he's obsessed with something, so obsessed that it destroys everybody around him. And I'll get to that with the plot. The story itself is based on true events that occurred in 19th century England with the Rush murder, which the actual Rush murder is very similar to the movie. Just a few little details are different, such as the romance, but for the most part, they are pretty similar. So the plot of the film, Valerie Hobson, she gets a letter, not a call, because they didn't have phones back then, but she gets a letter from her uncle saying, hey, my your cousin's wife has passed away, and his daughter really needs someone to raise her. So he's basically asking her to be the little girl's governess. She agrees. And of course, Valerie Hobson is very beautiful, and her cousin quickly starts falling in love with her. And the only thing that Valerie Hobson really has ever wanted in her life is stability and wealth. And her cousin and her uncle are definitely wealthy because the Blanche estate is beautiful and it's huge. So she gets married. She doesn't get married for love. Now, as with all movies, there has to be some little conflict. But this movie has a huge conflict. She meets the caretaker of the estate, which is Stewart Granger. And I believe Heathcliff was somewhat of the caretaker of the estate in Wuthering Heights. So there's another little similarity. So she falls in love, of course, with Stewart Granger because he's a man's man. He's really cool. But, of course, she's having an affair. And I want to say right now that for the rest of the review, if you haven't seen the film, I recommend you watch the film and then come back and watch the rest, because there are going to be a lot of spoilers for the rest of the review. Sometimes I don't like to give endings and too much of the plot away, but for this review, I feel like it's very necessary just to talk about some of the great things about the film. So, okay, I'll continue. So they're having an affair, and quickly they think, "Oh man, if only we could get rid of your husband and your uncle," because Stewart Granger's character, he is consumed with the idea that he is the rightful owner of the estate, of the Blanche estate, through his birthrights. But he's unable to prove it. So he's just obsessed with this. And he wants to marry Valerie Hobson. And they come up with this idea, of course, to murder her husband and the uncle. So the actual scene, the murder scene, is very intense and very violent for 1948, because Stewart Granger, he dresses himself up as a gypsy, and that's not the violent aspect of it, but he does it in cold blood. So he sees Michael Gough's character, and he just shoots him basically in cold blood. Then he sees Michael Gough's dad. He definitely shoots him in cold blood. It's a very powerful scene. My problem with the film starts after he kills them, because Valerie Hobson is telling him, "Okay, my darling, you must lay low now. Lay low for a while, and then you can come here and you can live with me and we can have a wonderful life." But Stewart Granger's character he can't wait. He has become a completely psychotic, different person. He walks in the mansion saying, "This is my place now," and just acting really crazy. And he gives the idea that he's going to kill the daughter of Valerie Hobson's now deceased husband. He's going to kill the daughter because now she is the rightful owner of the estate. And just Valerie Hobson is she can't believe it. He's acting like a maniac, basically. He's obsessed with owning the estate so much that he'll forget about their love and kill this little innocent girl. So it starts becoming a little melodramatic, a little bit ridiculous. She ends up turning him in, and he is hung for his crimes. And the ending of the movie is extremely gruesome, because you see the little girl. She was told by Stewart Granger that she can do this jump on her little horse, that everyone knows that if she attempts it, she will surely die, because the jump is just too much for a little horse to do. So Valerie Hobson is running. It's very dramatic, and the little girl ends up dying. It cuts scenes quickly to Valerie Hobson on her deathbed because she just had her baby. And what I really want to talk about is just the scene when she passes away, because she passes away and she starts seeing this white light. And it was so strange. It was so bizarre. It was a very bizarre way to end a film, I thought, for 1948. But it was certainly powerful. She sees the white light, and it goes into the white light like she's dying. And that's how it ends. So my biggest problem with the film is just that it started to become too soap opera-ish once he killed her husband and her father-in-law. He just became ridiculous. My rate for the film is 3 stars. It's definitely a good watch, especially if you love the Victorian era films. And I want to read a little bit that I have on the movie. So Valerie Hobson had this to say: "I had just had our son, who was born mentally handicapped, and he meant the film and he meant the film as a sort of loving gift, making me back into a leading lady, which was a wonderful idea. The film didn't work out completely. So, boom. Valerie Hobson, the film didn't work. And this is what Stewart Granger had to say about it. The film was a silly story, too grim and melodramatic. So I completely agree with that statement. Melodramatic. But it's a wonderful looking film. I agree with that too. It's beautiful. The settings are amazing. Definitely Victorian era. Wonderful looking film. I enjoyed working with Valerie Hobson, but the film didn't work. Boom. They both said the same exact thing. And then this is what the producer had to say about the film. We took far too long over Blanche Fury. It cost too much money and it didn't work. Boom. The producer said the same thing. And never attracted any great audience. David and Ronnie didn't like what I was trying to do with Blanche Fury, which was along the lines of the very successful costume films from Gainsborough. I wanted to make a serious one with a story, and I thought it would make a lot of money. I found out what I was making was a hard film, not a soft film, which the others were. There was a real hatred in it as well as love, and the public didn't want it. So boom, 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 the film didn't work. It had the potential. I gave it 3 stars because it was great up until 2/3 of the movie, but definitely a good watch. I hope you enjoyed our little adventure to the Blanche estate, and have a good night.